Welcome back to the Brother to Brother Show. I am your host, K Mo. I'm here with a good friend of mine, and we'll be talking a little bit about fatherhood and girl dads. We'll be right back. Let's make a change together. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you again for joining us with the Brother to Brother Show. I am your host, K Mo. I'm a life and relationship coach for tomorrow's men. And our podcast is with the Brother to Brother Show. Tonight, we are talking with a good friend of mine, somebody I've known for several years, a good man, a good father. We're talking about girl dads sharing experiences with fathers in our community. He is definitely one of those a good brother and a good man who does a wonderful job as a father. And I'm bringing him on, Mr. Kieth Clark. How are you doing, brother?
Good. What's up, K-Mo?
All right. So, I could tell the audience about who you are, but I want you to do us the favor and do us the honors.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. So I've been in Washington, D.C. area for maybe 20 years about. I've got a twin brother, and stepsister who came into my life. I call it my bonus sister, came into my life a little later when I was in my 20s, and was predominantly raised by the women in my life. My mom, my aunts, my grandmother. My father was kind of intermittent, and I'm a father of two. I've got an older son and a younger daughter. So she's in her early 20s.
Nice. And so, we talk here, and I've had the I have the honor to do some podcasts with you, and
Mm-hmm.
you definitely showed a lot about your family. Here we talk about males and relationships, and even how that relates to how women can like listen and think about how we think as men. And I think it's just so important for us to continue to have these conversations. And this is our first one on YouTube and on Facebook. So thanks so much for being on here. I really appreciate it. It's just to get your insight, especially about, I know you have a son, but also being a girl dad. And so can you talk a little bit about what has fatherhood been like for you?
Fatherhood, I'll be honest, at the very beginning was scary,
Right.
because you realize that you are responsible not only for the safety and security of this little person,
Mm-hmm.
but also what their life's going to be about. And,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you're going to protect them, but prepare them, but not spoil them. And
Right.
so fatherhood it was scary. It was exciting. It's an honor,
Right.
and it's ever learning. You don't get to a point where I know what it is to be a father, because
Right.
that continually changes.
Right. And so I know that's your view of fatherhood, but in a society and like how you were brought up, can you talk a little bit about like what was your image and your thought of fathers as you yourself was, becoming a man?
Right.
How was that different than what you think fatherhood is with you passing that on to your daughter?
Okay. I mean, for me, my number one goal in being a father was to be present. Um, my father, I use the term intermittent because he was in and out. And especially, I think that's very important for, when you're raising a daughter, especially if you want your daughter to have um, positive and constructive relationships with other males or other men in their lives. And
Right.
so I always wanted to model what a man should be like, and how a man should treat her. And so the number one way I did that was to just be present, be there.
So going into our next question, like, so what has been how's it, what has it been like to be a girl dad? You have a son, but how is that different raising a young lady as opposed to a male?
It definitely changes your perspective.
Right.
Being a male, trying to, raise a daughter, you change your perspective in terms of how you think about certain situations, how you look at things from their point of view. You don't automatically jump to, oh, you're overreacting. You don't jump to, hey, don't say anything, just be quiet. And these are a lot of those are a lot of things that when I was a kid, it was how daughters and sisters were treated. They were told not to be, don't be loud, don't talk, you know, don't make a fuss. And it's hard to do that nowadays. And I wanted my daughter to feel empowered and feel safe. And so I really wanted to make sure that she had a strong sense of self, that and she wasn't ashamed or afraid to use that, and not use it, but to show it.
Right.
And I also wanted to make sure that she was a understanding, kind, and empathetic person. That she wasn't like a little mean girl or something like that.
Yeah.
And
So you can get that though, right? Raising a daughter. And so what were those years like? And how did you learn how to balance that when she came into those? It's different with preteens with boys and the preteens with girls.
right.
So can you talk a little bit about, like, even your thought process behind that? Like how what were some of those challenges that you had?
One challenge is just don't try to fix everything. I was, especially when your kids are small, you want to fix everything. You want to make sure that everything is, provided for them, or, hard situations are made easier, or they're given access to certain things. And, when they get kind of in their teen or tween years, you just have to kind of be there to support, and counsel when needed, or most of the time counsel when asked.
Right.
But you have to kind of step back a little bit and let them kind of grow into their own, especially when she's trying to figure out the type of person she is, and the type of crowd she fits in, and coming into her own. So I think stepping back and just not trying to control and hover has been one of the biggest things that I've tried to use and exercise.
Right. Because even in my profession, I've seen it happen where you try to make sure that there's balance, and it seems like that's what you're saying. There's balance between both of those things. And how did you find your balance with not trying to control what you could control, but also not control what you thought she should have as a young lady?
Because that's one of the best ways that she can learn. If I do something for her, she's not gonna learn the true lesson behind it. She's not gonna feel like, okay, when she started driving,
right,
and she got a parking ticket. I didn't pay for parking tickets, because I want you to feel how that money coming out of your account. How does that make you feel? Because next time you won't park there. But something as simple as that. Or she's an athlete, and so when she was running, and if she didn't want to work out one day, okay, fine, don't work out. But guess what? That woman who smoked you last week, she's working out right now.
Right.
And you got to be there when they have ups and downs, and just really let them know that everybody's going to have ups and downs. So don't get too high on the ups and don't get too low on the downs.
Did you have any questions within yourself with some of those things? Like, were there any practices that you had with those type of conversations? Because I know that a lot of times, with people outside of your household, or even your immediate circle maybe doing things differently.
Right.
And so, was there any time where you felt like you had to defend some of the things that you brought into your household with how you were raising her?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, we have there were rules on, how old you could be before you had a cell phone. And some of her friends had cell phones, and I'm like, nope, you're not gonna get a cell phone until you're 13. So that was one thing. And just the whole dating and wearing makeup, and a lot of that now sounds very old fashioned, especially with social media.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
know, I messed around and went on her Instagram page and was like, whoa. I mean, it's not crazy, but it's just like,
yeah,
okay, that's
yeah.
my daughter.
Uh-huh.
And so you just got to do what you think is best for you. For me, it was very important to make sure that you know she had a grounding in faith, and so
Hmm.
church was a big thing, and it got to a point where she was like, okay, I'm good, but now that's something that she can pull back on.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, I've got a foundation that when I'm really, really down or really despondent, that's something I can rely on.
Were there any tips or anything that you would give any fathers who are raising daughters right now with some, like, just some of those things, or how did you balance, or even how did you balance the old school way of thinking to the modern day way of thinking? But, because some of those things, personally for me, I believe some of those old school things of way of thinking really shaped who we are and our character, and also provided some level of integrity, especially as men, you have to have.
Yeah.
How did you balance that between, or were there any arguments between how you raise the siblings? Did the boys say, oh, because I know in my household, my I could do more than my sister. I came down to me.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, well, mom didn't let me do this.
Right.
You got a little bit more leeway than some of the girls. So was it that type of dynamic in the household?
It was at times.
Okay.
I really tried to fight against this kind of, overprotection of my
Mm-hmm.
daughter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Having my daughter be um, more docile,
Mm-hmm.
and if she got upset, you know, saying don't overreact, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
things like that. So I really had to kind of watch myself and be more in tune with how I approached and dealt with some situations. Um, but it learned, for me, I learned that you just have to listen a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
because if you listen, you'll know that something that she may be upset about is not something that she wants you to fix. She just wants you to listen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just listen. And then if she asks for your opinion, then
Mm-hmm.
you get it. If she doesn't, then you don't. Because a lot of times, we always want to fix it. I'll give you a quick story, and this happened recently.
Okay.
My daughter's 21, and I've loaned her my car, which she now is claimed as hers. But anyway, so she got my car towed, or the car got towed, and the first thing she did was she texted me. She's like, "Dad, your car got towed." Now,
I thought it was your car.
it's her car,
Yeah. Okay.
right? She was like, "Your car got towed."
Or our car got towed.
Yeah, and and I immediate was like, okay, find out where it is.
Mm-hmm.
When you go get it, let me know how much it is,
Mm-hmm.
and then call me back.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent the money to her account, and I remember, like, at that point, I was like, what am I doing?
No.
And so I talked to her later that night, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? I want to apologize. I said, because when you told me the car got towed, I didn't ask you what you wanted me to do. I
Mm-hmm.
just went ahead and did it. And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, yeah, I was going to tell you that I had it under control. I even have the money in my account. I was like, oh, great. So you can pay me back, right? So
but you said it was your car instead of saying,
right.
I think that's the reason why you fell for that one.
Oh no, I just wanted to
To
fix it.
help. Yeah,
And so she
absolutely.
sent me the
Absolutely.
money. And we had a conversation about it. Okay,
Mhm.
next time I won't do that. I'll wait for you to tell me if you need me to do something.
Right.
And so that's something that, again, just listen, know that they are very, very resilient. You know, that's another thing. You know, when I was a kid, the resiliency of girls specifically was
Mhm.
never emphasized. It was never the strength of a girl or a woman at that time was never emphasized. It was always, you know, your son, how
Mhm.
powerful he is. He's a great athlete and da da da. You know, but never for girls. And you know, being a girl dad, I see how resilient, how strong, how focused, you know, how focused my daughter is. So, I mean, there are times where I have to tell her, look, slow down,
Mhm.
enjoy being in college,
Right.
have
Mhm.
fun,
Right.
but still bring home them A's.
Right. You know, I think it's unique because I know you, and I also know the fact that you do an exceptional job of communicating, and even how you're talking right now, and like thinking about like I'm trying to think about how this would go as you're raising her up to be a woman or a woman now.
Right.
I know those conversations were had at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And I think possibly in our society, even as a child, as especially as a man, like you want to protect, you want to go right into that protect mode if you having a woman around you. And even as you know, in relationships, I think that's how we roll for the most part. You want to protect the women around you because that's how we were raised.
Right.
And so,
Exactly.
what is that balance? And I keep going back to that. What has been that balance for you to check yourself to say, or was it just a foundational communication that you started off with her? You know, from when she was those small lessons and going into for her to be as focused as she is right now. What is that?
I mean, it's hard. The communication portion is hard because, you know, you kind of go from talking to, you know, your daughter as a baby to a toddler to a preschooler. Then, you know, then next thing you know, she's a tween or she's a teen, and the conversation has changed, and you have to be open to having conversations. I remember the first time she cursed, and I was like,
Mm.
"What did you say?" And she was like, "Oh, you know, I was just telling you what one of my friends said." I was like, "Don't say that." And
It
I
needs to be a bleep.
right, we went from having this very um, connected conversation
Mhm.
where probably she thought we were on the same level
Right.
to then she cursed, and I was like, "Dad," again, like, "Don't curse. You don't
Right.
curse at your dad." And
Yeah.
she's like, "I wasn't cursing at you." And so you have to allow them that space. I'm not saying let your daughter curse at you. Do not. I don't let my daughter still does not curse at me anyway.
Right.
But what I'm saying is you have to allow them that space that when they're having a conversation, that they're allowed to express themselves in the manner that they see fit.
Mhm.
That's respectful, but in a manner that is representative of how they feel and how they want to convey themselves.
Mhm.
And that's hard.
Yeah. So let's go into this challenges with we kind of jumping off with the questions, and I know I did. I wanted to get down to like the foundational part of how you were, you raised your daughter, and I think
Right.
you kind of hit that. Um, we talk about relationships here a lot on this platform, especially between and with men and how we understand women and how a lot of women don't understand how we think, and
Right.
so it's good just to kind of talk about it first and raising it, but also from your raising her, how was that first date for you? Like, what were some of the things that you had fear of, or you know, what were some of those things you talked to her about before the first date? Like, and then how did you protect her from that?
Yeah, you think you can protect them,
Hmm.
but all you can do is prepare them.
Right.
And you know, I the good thing is I've got my twin brother. He has a daughter as well, and so
Okay.
we share and we talk a lot about experiences that we have. And you know, you can't be on a date with them, even though we have tried.
Okay.
but you can't be on a date with them. And so you've got to hope that the way you've raised your daughter, that she's going to make good decisions. And when she doesn't,
Right.
or when she feels unsure, that's when you step in and you're supportive, you're giving encouragement. But you can't villainize all men.
Right.
Like it's me against them. Because she's gonna pick the worst rugrat out there. Do that.
Yeah.
And
Rebellious.
Right. And you can't also go the other end where you make all guys right. I know some friends of mine, their daughters, they make it seem like the guy who's dating their daughter is like he is doing her a favor. Like she is the luckiest man to be dating this guy who's a quarterback, da 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 da. And you can't, because once you do that, that creates a psyche in your daughter's mind that says, okay, my worth is linked to how people see me with this person. So I have to be with a person like that. Regardless of how he treats you. I told my daughter, I said, you don't believe anything a man says. You believe how he treats you. And if he treats you good, then he's all right.
Right.
But
because as men, I'm sorry to cut you off, it's our job to have a mouthpiece on us. It's our job to say the right things because we're pursuers. And so you really have to be able to identify based off of what you're saying and your actions. And I find a lot of times, even in our relationships, and I'm sure we've had conversations offline about just how relationships are in today's time. Like it's not based off of what people are saying about, it's about what they're doing, their actions. So how is that? Like, especially with her just starting out, essentially, I know she's dated for a while. I know she probably thinks she's been on tons of dates, but as a young person, but like for real, like how has that been for you, and to like step in when you need to step in and give your advice as opposed to being the protector?
Right. I mean, so okay, your other question talked about that first date. It's so funny because first date is a term that older people use, but they're not dating no more.
They're not dating no more.
They
right. What are they doing? Yeah.
And next thing you
Hooking
know,
up, I don't know what it is anymore.
They Instagram official, and they ain't even went out.
Nah. Nah.
So that's one thing.
But the date in high school, right? So the date in high school, there was a date in high school. When could she start dating as a young person?
I think she was a sophomore, or a junior. Yeah.
Okay. So was it the bad boys type of scenario? Was your brother was in the house too, or when you came to the door? How was that?
We were on the phone because we live close to each other. So
okay, all right.
I think they're gonna be at the mall. So he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll be at the mall." So yeah, it was one of those. And then it only takes one time to get caught, and then they all embarrassed and mad and stuff like that. So
and that's okay too. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna happen.
Yeah. So anything from your past relationships or current relationships you can share about what you may have gone through that you really wanted to pass down to your daughter? Was there anything that you felt the need to say as she became an adult now?
Yeah. That relationships are fluid. So you might make a mistake in one relationship. That doesn't mean it's going to carry over to the next relationship.
Right.
And you've got to continue to, as a person, be better and get better. And so, don't be hard on yourself. If a relationship doesn't work out, don't spend a lot of effort. Like first couple of times, she would like hate the guy that dated. I'm like, first of all, I mean, in my mind, I'm like, yo, y'all was like together 2 weeks. So
right.
Now you hate this dude.
Yeah.
And so I had to tell her, don't give someone that much power that you hate them for those 2 weeks they were in your life. I mean, I've been married and now I'm divorced, and it's, at some point you got to let all of that hate, all of that
Mhm.
mal
Yeah.
feelings you have, you got to let it go,
Right.
because it won't, it'll prevent you from moving on into other
To the
relationships.
next person. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's a challenging thing that even that you and I have, or just people as adults in this world that we live in. It's hard to kind of go from one relationship to the next and be healed and not
right.
bring those same issues or problems. I call it baggage. I always use the analogy. Um, I will not accept anybody's baggage, but I'll accept somebody's experiences. Experiences being baggage that you've healed from, you can move from. And
Right.
so I know that's something that she's probably on her journey. What
Yeah.
we see as women in their 20s and 30s, 40s, or whatever are still holding on to. So, what would be that thing? How do you teach her how to heal now? We talk about mental health and wellness here so much, but those relationships can shape you, that can hurt you, that can mess up the rest of your life. It can stick with you and cause you down a spiral that you don't want to go into for the next couple of years. But would it be something that, going into the next question, you would say that you've asked other guys, brothers, uh, other men in your life that helped you with raising, your daughter?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I have, like I mentioned before, I talked to my brother quite a bit. Another thing, I mean, I emphasize to my daughter that self-care is very important, whether it's therapy, whether it's taking care of your body physically. Um, I was surprised by a conversation I had when we had my line brothers and I got back together during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and we started talking about our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I was floored at some of the things that we were talking about, because I was like, that's happening in my house too.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that was just my
Yeah.
craziness.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like it's happening everywhere, and the pandemic just made it worse. So definitely having a resource where you can talk to other fathers that are, other girl dads is
Mm-hmm.
really important, because you almost get to normalize and say, okay, this isn't
Right.
as crazy as I thought. Because as a father, sometimes you think, oh shoot, this is really bad, I gotta really really fix it, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they're like, no, just chill, it'll pass. When a friend of mine, his kids are older than mine, and he said, look, he said, my girl, look, he said, I got a daddy's girl, she loves me.
Mm.
When she was 12,
Mm-hmm.
somebody snuck into her room, kidnapped
Mm.
her, and
What?
replaced her with an evil version of her.
Wow.
He said, when she turned 13, she hated me, she
Mm.
cursed, she was a hellion.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she was 15, she was back to a daddy's girl.
Right.
Now, without having that conversation, I would have thought the first time my daughter and I had an argument that I was a complete failure as a father.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you realize hormones, dating,
Mm-hmm.
all of those
Right.
things happen around the same time, and it creates this perfect storm of just craziness.
Right. Because I'm assuming you look at her like as your, when she was walking and she was a
Right?
kid, you always gonna look at her like that. Well, like most of our parents do. We're always gonna be their children, regardless how old we get. We hear those stories over and over again. But I just have, when you think about the protection piece, because even when we're out and we may be dating or getting, doing whatever, I just always wonder how that translates with not protecting her always. And I know that, do you think that she feels that you are always there for her and have her back?
Yeah.
And if she does, like, how do you not step in with those, heartbreaks or those bad times that she may have gone through, relationships, or just hard times in her life, not necessarily be a relationship, just in general, because
Right.
we necessarily didn't grow up so much with therapy. We understand it and how it can help support us now, but this next generation talks about a little bit more. But financially, are they really going to get therapy? Are they really doing things to help them mentally, to get through, life's ups and downs? And we know looking at social media and how falsifies it is about with life, and how that's not the real world all the time. Like, how do you balance that? And that's my last question, and please end us with that.
It's hard. I mean, social media is a bear in terms of, it does a lot to to their self-worth. It does a lot to their friend circle. It does a lot to their self-esteem. It's just it is something that I'm still trying to grapple with and trying to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
I know if you're in tune with your child, and specifically your daughter, I know my daughter is not a person who whines and complains a lot.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, Dad, I need you to comfort me.
Mm-hmm.
And so in one particular situation, she broke up with this guy, and we were talking about it, and she was like, "Oh, I'm fine, no problem." And I'm like, "You sure?"
Right.
And she was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I said, I could come down there. I could be down there tomorrow, and we could just hang out. We don't have to do anything. And she said, "Well, you don't have to come tomorrow, but what about if you come on Friday? Because I know you got to work during the week." Dude, I was on the next plane smoking.
Right.
But she don't usually ask me stuff like that. And so when she kind of left the door open a little bit, I was down there within 14 hours.
Right.
And it was a good thing because we hung out, we talked, and it wasn't like this high pressure thing where I got to come down and fix it. I just went down there to be with her.
Have some support and somebody to talk about it with.
Right. And I mean, because look, if you don't have conversations with your kids, especially your girls, if you don't talk to them about how a man should treat them or how people in general should treat them that are in their lives, it's going to happen on social media.
Yeah.
It's going to happen in school.
Yeah.
And it may not always be positive. Yeah. So as a girl dad, you need to take that responsibility and just own up. It's going to feel uncomfortable. And that's where you reach out, you talk to other girl dads, and you find out, hey, is this normal, or am I doing this right? And just listen to people.
Well, thanks so much, Kieth. Again, we're having this series with girl dads. I'm going to have another guest on in the next week or so, and I'm going to bring both of you guys on at the same time so we can have a roundtable about the same things, and maybe there's some things again we can share to the audience about girl dads, because again, at some point they will be dating, and we want to make sure, again, we're talking about community.
Right.
If they're not seeking the same type of person that they're raised similar to, how are we changing the community? How are we making this thing right? How are we making it so that we bring in positive relationships and we can make our communities grow a little bit stronger? So thank you again for being on. I know we had a hard stop tonight and we're going over a little bit, so I appreciate it. But thank you to our listeners, our viewers. This has been a wonderful conversation. We're going to continue to have these conversations about men of color really having a voice in their daughters' lives, and how that shapes in our relationship. So we'll see you next time at the Brother to Brother Show. Have a good night. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for coming onto the show. You can find us at tomorrowsmen.com, on Facebook at Tomorrow's Men, and on Instagram at Tomorrow's Men. Please click and subscribe to the button below. I'm your host, K Mo. Until we meet again, know we love you, work with us, be with us, and know we're coming from the heart. Peace.